All right, what's up, guys? I'm Bill,
Hey guys, I'm Emily.
and we are BEFast Running, and we're here for our second day of our coaching topic sessions, and we're talking about gearing up. This is dressing for success as a runner. And this topic is, one of my favorite things to talk about because I'm coming from 4 years of retail experience with the Bryn Mawr Running Company and like another 4 years of working with Brooks Running and another year of working with Superfeet. So a lot of industry experience where I am surrounded by gear.
Yeah, I actually met Bill when we were both working at the Bryn Mawr Running Company a few years ago. So I also have a little bit of retail experience in the running world. Obviously, I kind of switched gears and ended up kind of going into a different area, ultimately going back to school for physical therapy. But yeah,
It's been awesome, to go ahead and reconnect with you, Emily, for sure. And, with the PT side of things you bring over here is great. But, this is the realm that I love talking about. So, before we get into it, want to go ahead and make sure that we go ahead and shout out our local supporting stores. We have the Running Place out over in Newtown Square, the Scranton Running Company in Scranton, Pennsylvania, the Bryn Mawr Running Company with 4 locations, Bryn Mawr, Media, Westchester, and then the Emmaus Run-In, and Philadelphia Runner with their 5 locations in Center City, University City, Glen Mills, Manayunk, and the King of Prussia Mall. So, before we even start getting over into this, I want to let you guys know that are watching that this all the stores that we just mentioned have their own experts there. Everything that we talk about they'll echo as well in their own way. They're the experts of all the product that they have, and our talk today, we're just trying to go ahead and talk in kind of like a generalization to kind of lead you on the right path of having the right mindset when you go into the store. When you go into a running store, it's almost like a kid in a candy shop. There is so many options and so many flavors to pick from, but it's really hard to go ahead and figure out where you want to go ahead and spend your dollar. So um, people like to say that running is the cheapest sport to get into, and I find that to be very misleading because I think running has the highest cap in that you can spend. However, if you are, making sure that you are just finding the right stuff for you, it can be, just the right amount of, money that you want to spend. So, what do you think about that,
yeah,
Emily?
absolutely. I wish it were cheap, but for me at this point, it's no longer cheap. I think because I love shoes a lot and always want to buy more, but that's not that's not necessary. You don't need to go crazy on that. So
Yeah. So we'll talk, over the end to go ahead and recap about maybe a good gauge, a good appropriate amount of all the gear that we talk about that would be recommended to have at the end. But by no means you need to go ahead and um, spend outside of your zone. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about all this wonderful gear and whether we're talking about all the topics of footwear, apparel, and accessories. All of it is going to relate to these 3 F's: fit, feel, and function. So let's go ahead and get after it and go ahead and start talking about footwear over here. So when we go ahead and look at buying a pair of shoes for running, you know, first Emily and I would both echo that, you want a shoe that is specifically built for running. When we talk about, running being a really inexpensive sport, sure, you can run in anything. You can run in bare feet if you want. We're just letting you know, as the experts, that it is not recommended.
yeah, I would echo that. I mean, I guess the barefoot running thing technically gets a little more complicated, but yeah, as a rule, you're not going to want to run in your Chucks or your Vans or whatever. Get some running shoes to start out.
So how do we select a running shoe? Especially now that we know about the 3 F's: fit, feel, and function. How that pertains to a running shoe is really, really simple when you think about it, okay? Because all of it relates to decisions that you get to go ahead and make as the individual selecting your shoe. So this is an example of one of the shoes I have over here, and I'm going to use this as kind of a diagram to go through the three F's. So first, when we talk about the fit for the shoe, the fit is going to be the way that it kind of wraps around your foot, either like a glove or maybe a little bit looser, like, a comfortably fitting, like, sweatshirt. It's going to be up to your preference of how the shoe is going to fit, and that comes with the upper for the shoe. So the material that we have all around the shoe over here is the way that's going to fit around you and how it fits and feels. For me, this material over here fits like, almost like a sock over here. It's going to go ahead and, hug my foot, but not going to suffocate it, where it's like cutting off circulation over to my foot. I have a little bit of room in the toe box, about like, a finger's like worth, so that way my toes aren't jamming like all the way up and I'm losing any like toenails over here. So that's the first, part we're looking at for the fit, is going to go with, the way that it wraps around your foot. For the next part that we have over here is going to go ahead and be the feel, and what we're looking at for that is actually going to be our midsole section over here of the shoe, which most people refer to as the cushion. So when you're landing down over in this bottom part of the shoe, that is the feel. You would think that the feel is the way that it wraps around your foot, but the most important thing is how it feels when you impact the ground. So the material underneath this shoe, and the preference that I like to have over here, is actually a responsive feel. The material over here is actually a little bit more firm. So when I land down underneath, the sensation on my foot is going to be one that's going to spring back up and bounce and make me feel fast. The other sensations that you can feel that most people prefer is going to be nice and cushioned. So you're going to go ahead and feel a nice like pillowy feel, almost like you're running on a cloud. So depending on the kind of run that you would like to experience, that's where it really comes down to feel and experiencing that. And the last part that we have is function. So I just showed you the shoe that I was just holding. Now I'm going to show you a completely different shoe. This one over here is going to be a whole 4 or maybe even like 5 ounces lighter than the previous shoe that I had. And this one over here is going to actually fit a little bit tighter, and it's going to go ahead and have like, an even more responsive feel, because this is my racing shoe. This is the shoe that I want to go ahead and use on my fastest days, and I'm going and putting this shoe over in the closet and bringing this bad boy out because I want to go out for all out speed. So I have different shoes for different purposes, different functions, and it's really important to go ahead and, make note of that when you are selecting your shoe. What are you actually using it for? Really kind of figuring that out in your brain and following along with the plan of your training.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and endorse everything Bill's saying about fit, feel, and function. Those things are obviously really crucial. As a PT, I'm also pretty interested in following like a lot of the current research about selecting a good running shoe. There's actually kind of a pretty big, this is a pretty big area of research right now among people who study this. And you might have heard like the old school paradigm was kind of based on your foot type. So you'd look at your foot in a static position, just standing, and assign a neutral stability or motion control shoe based on basically the degree of pronation or supination that you have when you're standing there. So that seems like it makes it pretty straightforward, but the problem is there's actually not really a great deal of research supporting it. There's some research that actually contradicts it. So people have been coming up with new paradigms to help people select a running shoe. And this is something that I help my patients with as a PT when they're returning from injury and they ask me, well, these shoes, were they contributing to my injury? Like, should I get new shoes? So a big area right now is this idea of the comfort filter, which basically presupposes that you're going to run the best in a shoe that allows you to continue in your preferred movement path, which is the way that you're going to be running most efficiently. And a shoe that's comfortable is going to allow that. So that seems like it simplifies things a lot. There's not a ton of actual practical research supporting this yet, but it's an interesting idea and one that I'm kind of fond of myself. So comfort, that really aligns well with what a lot of what Bill was saying about fit and feel. So just, I don't want to go on and on about it, but that's kind of something to keep in mind. Does the shoe actually feel good to you? Do you feel like you can run naturally in it? Yeah.
All that stuff that Emily just said is stuff that I learned a lot when working with Brooks as well too. Just being able to find a preferred movement pattern instead of going ahead and, figuring out like, whether you're in a certain like category or not. Everybody is so individualized, in their running that you need to go ahead and find out what works out best for you. So thank you, Emily.
Definitely. Yeah.
So back on the path of fit, feel, and function, we covered footwear and how to go ahead and decide, what's right for underneath your foot. What is the vehicle that's powering you through your run. But we need to go ahead and worry about, the what's covering you like as well too. So that's where we need to go and talk about apparel for our next step on gearing up. So when we talk about apparel over here, I'm actually wearing one of my favorite like pieces right now over here. This is a canopy jacket, and I'm wearing a nice like distance tee like as well, and even some Spartan pants, right now too. Some of my favorite like pieces that I'm wearing, and all that comes down over to still looking at the fit, feel, and function categories because for the fit, we want to go ahead and make sure that the way it's like wrapped around your body, allows you to go ahead and like, have the, mobility and like, not too like baggy or too tight. Like, maybe you do want it tight, maybe you don't. So for me, I like my clothes like pretty loose. So you can see how much room I have over here and stuff. I like stuff to not be like hugging me like super tight on my body. I want to be able to have my chest expand, my diaphragm go up and down without having to feel too much like resistance like over on it and stuff. Um, when we go ahead and look at the feel, that comes down to the materials. And that's why I love something like this, the canopy jacket, because typically when you see jackets, sometimes it can feel a little bit plasticky. When you sweat, it can feel like it sticks to your body. But for some reason, this material over here is incredible for how it feels like over on my body. So it's not irritating me and I don't have to think about anything extra. So instead of just like, pressing down on it like you would like a shoe, it's still important of how it like sits on top of you as well. For feel, it can also be with the weight of it. This is incredibly lightweight. I don't want to go ahead and carry something heavy around. And for function, we'll go ahead over and get into this in a little bit as well, but we want to go ahead and make sure that we're utilizing the right thing for the right function. It's a little bit colder now, so this is a great layer piece, so that way you can go ahead and run out over in a little bit more frigid temperatures. I would not wear this on a hot summer day, even though it looks really, really cool and it makes me super, super visible with the yellow over here. It's not something I'm gonna go ahead and dress up in because it's not the right function.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have a couple pieces here too that I like. This is another Brooks jacket. This is the Brooks Carbonite jacket. Um, really like this one for winter because it's got a lot of reflective um, paneling on it, and that's really nice for obviously running in low light conditions so you can stay safe. Um, so that's a nice one. It's also pretty wind resistant, which is important because everyone hates wind. I also got, speaking of wind, I recently picked up these really nice Nike Shield pants. They're very heavy duty, so you can really only wear them when it's very, very cold out, but they're very wind resistant and really nice. And having like, you know, having the appropriate gear in the winter makes running so much more tolerable. So yeah, but I agree, it's so individual. You just got to find what feels comfortable for you.
So keeping to the fit, feel, function, making sure that everybody's able to go and find out, what works out for them. Once you have the right gear, the question that comes up sometimes, especially now in the winter, Emily, how do I know how to layer for a colder run? Hmm.
Hmm. I don't know, Bill. What do you think?
Well, I think that, when you go ahead and think about it, if I were to go ahead and go out on a day like today where it was actually like a little bit of sleet, a lot of wind and everything like that, I would really, really want to go ahead and like bundle up almost like in like my parka, to make sure
Yeah.
that I am like, constantly like, covered up. But let's see what the experts have to say.
All right.
So the answer that we have over here is dress like it is 10 degrees warmer than the real feel because your body will warm up through the run. So we went ahead and came up with this answer because on a day like today, it can really scare us to go ahead and overlayer because we see how intimidating the cold is as soon as we step out the door. We uh, always remember to go ahead and factor in how warm our body will get from being able to naturally warm up from moving from our body heat and being like covered up. So um, understanding like this kind of calculation into figuring out how to go ahead and like layer up is a good measure to look at.
Yeah, definitely. And it seems a little counterintuitive, but just think that when you're wearing too much, you're going to sweat like crazy, and that's actually going to make you colder in the long run. So you really want to avoid that. You want to be a little bit chilly when you first step out the door. You don't want to be warm. You don't want to be warm right away. You don't really want to be warm for that first 10 minutes of your run. You're going to be a little bit chilly, but you'll warm up quickly.
Absolutely. So that's going to be the fit, feel, and function when looking at apparel. I will say, and we'll talk about it a little bit at the end, but you know, you don't need like a ton of pieces. You don't need to go ahead and re-up on your apparel every single year. Like, this piece is like a couple years old already. I know Emily has like a newer piece, but I guarantee when I see her in 4 years on a run, she's still going to be wearing that carbonite jacket because of the
Oh
durability
yeah.
in that product.
You don't drop that kind of cash on something and just like give it up after one season. All this stuff is really durable, honestly. I've got plenty of running gear that I've had for almost a decade, and it's still in pretty good shape. So absolutely.
Yes. So the last thing we're going to go ahead and talk about for the fit, feel, function, the gear, spectrum is going to go ahead and be one that is sometimes overlooked but incredibly important. That's going to be your accessories. So, um, accessories come in all shapes and form, but they're really there as kind of like your lifeline of support in like many different ways. So, like, what's one thing, Emily, that you always like bring with you over on your run?
I always bring my phone with me, which I know is a controversial topic amongst some runners, but I bring it for safety more than anything, just in case I get stuck in a bad situation.
Absolutely. And do you just run with it in your hand, or like what was your
Yeah,
what's your
yeah, I
story
do.
there?
I do run with it in my hand. It's not ideal because, yeah, I recently upgraded my phone. It's bigger than my old phone was, and it doesn't fit very comfortably in my hand, but I haven't found a good solution for it yet. So, yeah, I'm still just running, I'm carrying it.
Well, if I may be able to offer a solution for you over here, one of the
Yeah,
things that I'm able to go ahead and run with sometimes is something like this. It's going to be a belt device. This is a fuel belt. And over here, with my phone that I have over here, it actually goes ahead and fits, pretty well like over in the pocket over here. So once you go ahead and like, slide it on in over into, the device, you can go ahead and zipper it up. And if you have AirPods, then you can just go ahead and, still like you listen and jam to it and you have your phone available right here. So it just wraps around you, really easy to be able to carry. Also, too, for other like devices, that we're looking for before we start into the fit, feel, function, is going to go ahead and be handy dandy watch. This is a GPS watch, and Emily has hers as
yep,
well. Um, Other devices as well, which you could go ahead and opt to go ahead and wear. Emily and I are very big fans of hats. So,
yeah,
wearing a hat, whether you have the brim to go ahead and, have you protect you from the sun,
backwards,
or even wear it backwards so you can just feel like a cool
backwards.
kid.
Hmm.
So when it comes down to the fit, feel, function side of things, with accessories, the important thing that we want to go ahead and like look at, with all of it, is mainly going backwards. Actually, looking at function first. Like, how's it going to go ahead and improve your running, right? The safety is so big. What Emily said, carrying your phone is great, and like being able to go ahead and run with it and like have it to unhinder your run is a really nice thing. Um, for the fit and the feel, it's the same thing, principles with apparel and like how it feels on your body. The important thing though is that, with talking with the function, is that if you need that device, like if you need your watch or you need your phone or a water bottle or pretty much like anything under the sun that you can think of that your body needs to support your running, the function is most important, and then you'll need to go ahead and figure out the fit and the feel with your device. For this belt over here, you're going to be able to have a strap that can go ahead and adjust. So hopefully it feels, or fits well. And then the feel is just something that you're going to have to get used to. It doesn't sit like a article of clothing on your body. It's something that you have to get used to, but I promise you that it's certainly worth it. When you adjust to it, and when it comes to race time, and you want your phone and you want your music, you already practice with using these articles to go ahead and support your running.
Definitely. And that kind of brings up a good point about the importance of testing out what you're gonna. This is not really on topic, but always good to test out in training what you might be wearing or using when you race. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So talking about footwear, apparel, accessories, there's plenty more under the sun to talk about. For all these things, other supporting, materials that we weren't able to get to today, but you can definitely contact us and, have a conversation us with it about is, topics of sports bras, talking about insoles, talking about, even like medical devices, if you need like anything because you're like going through like an injury. Like those are all different like pieces that are very important as well to go ahead and consider like as a runner. And we want to go ahead and shout out one more time our local supporting stores that are also the experts on these pieces if you're interested. We have the Running Place over in Newtown Square. Fantastic people over there that know their stuff. The Scranton Running Company up in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Store that's been around for a great amount of time. Um, they have the Scranton Marathon like right over in their neighborhood, so fantastic community there. Then the Bryn Mawr Running Company as well. They have so many locations for great advice with Bryn Mawr, Media, Westchester, and then the Emmaus Running and Philadelphia Runner as well, with locations in Center City, University City, Glen Mills, Manayunk, and the King of Prussia Mall as well too. So tons of great things, but if you go ahead and stick over to the fit feel function method, you'll definitely be able to have a good hand at trying to go ahead and navigate, this crazy field of gear that exists out there in the world.
Absolutely. Have fun with it. There's so much good stuff out there. You'll
Thank you.
find something.
Thank you guys for being able to tune in today. I hope that everybody, had fun being able to listen to the session, and I hope your next run is great. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, guys.